Hey everybody, HMV here, playing more Rimworld, and we are going to meet Albert's ex-girlfriend in a moment here, but first we have to deal with this pesky guy who wants to kill us. So, first off in that vein, I don't want the alpacas to come under fire. We've already lost one to a raider, so I create a new zone in the stockpile and name it Barn, and force the alpacas in there. We don't have many options for weapons for Kaylee, so I give her Albert's old steel club. Cruom shows up and, as promised, he has a bow. He's a shaman with a bum leg, and I'm just fine with that. Now, this is the first time we faced a ranged attacker, so I've not got a set of ready-made answers for him. But I figure setting us up on the far side of the barn isn't such a bad idea. I send Albert and Kaylee around to come at the attacker from the side as Hermione prepares her bow. Cruom gets entirely out of Hermione's sights and hits Kaylee with an arrow. So I change tactics and just have Albert and Kaylee beat the crap out of him while Hermione does the flanking. She doesn't even get a chance though before the Wonder Duo takes him down. I immediately have Kaylee, who I happen to know has some shooting skills, take his bow. And then I put her right to work disposing of the attacker's body. So what kind of person is Kaylee? Well, she's too smart for her own good and abrasive, but is also a quick sleeper. No wonder Lazybones Albert doesn't like her. She has no green thumb and can't mend a wound to save her life, literally, but otherwise she's pretty well-rounded. In particular, she should be a great hunter and handler, and when the time comes, she could be a pretty good artist and a miner, and even do some research if necessary. All in all, I'm quite happy with her. But right now, she also needs some medical treatment, though not much, so I let it sit until Albert rests up. Hermione finishes what is now Kaylee's room, right as the cold snap ends. The rest of the day is uneventful as I set Kaylee's priorities and adjust Albert and Hermione's as well, and Hermione spends the day hauling chunks out of the living area. With this few colonists, I think it's important to allow everybody the chance to do everything because it's better for most jobs to just get them done, even if the person doing them isn't so hot at the task. So, I'm setting up critical tasks for some people at 1, most other tasks at 2 or 3, and when the person is just terrible at the job, I'm setting it to 4 so they'll do it if the rest of their normal work is done. Kaylee gets up in the middle of the night for a quick meal as I'm finishing up the work tasks. It's not exactly hot in her room, so I cue up a torch to keep her a bit warmer. Albert gets up as well, but wants an early morning game of horseshoes. While he plays that, I plop down a couple more chairs so everybody can sit together for a meal. I don't really want chunks and bricks in the indoor stockpile, so even though Hermione spent the night hauling them there, I disallow them so someone will haul them back out. Then, as Hermione builds those chairs, I set up the outside stockpile to take all those things I don't want in the indoor one. And, presumably because everything's been going okay for the past 12 hours, Forix decides it's time to go berserk. I'm about to manually handle this when I realize that Albert's going over to repair that door that Forix is beating on. So, I let him. This amuses me to no end. If you're curious why Forix is so hungry even though she was recently fed, she's malnourished, so she needs more food than normal. This whole plan that I didn't have works quite well. Albert even has time to haul chunks between stints at the door. Now it takes me a minute to realize what just happened here. In fact, it's not until the second time it happens that I realize that Hermione opened the door, which caused both her and Albert to flee. There it is again. And because they ran, Forix gets the door down. However, she makes a bad choice and walks right into a trap. Again, I have trouble because Forix is not down, so isn't rescuable, but is an enemy, so isn't arrestable. So I make Albert melee attack her, and turn off fire at will on Kaylee, but she ignores me. I find, though, that if I move her from her current square, she actually listens to the order. Forix attacks our alpaca, our poor alpacas, so I send Albert in to smack her in the head. We can't capture her again because she broke her door down, so instead of building her a second door, we slap a wall up where she broke out. As Hermione finally gets into that room to do all the cleaning she was trying to do earlier, Albert drags Forix back to her bed. And while I'm checking on Forix's injuries, our alpacas get the flu. Again. Forix is still severely malnourished, so I send Hermione in with a meal. The alpaca with the flu this time is the pregnant one, of course, so I prioritize tending to her, so we'll hopefully get a baby soon. Kaylee gives Forix a stern talking to, knocking her resistance down a tiny bit. A low mood and poor social skills are going to make this recruitment take quite some time. And now that we've got 3 people, we suddenly have nothing to do. What a luxury that is. Kaylee can build though, so I figure it's about time we set up our crafting area. I decide to make it large enough for 3 standard workbenches along each wall, except the south wall, which will probably eventually have 2 fabrication benches on it. This gives us plenty of room in the middle of the room for tool cabinets and a small temporary stockpile, plus a light and maybe some art in the future. Our 3 colonists get to work on the new building and the workbenches. And as they complete the work, I run power down to it. I also switch from fire to powered lights. Like before, I set up our stonecutter table to get us 200 of the 2 most common stone types in the area, and then make sure we have 600 total of anything. Even though we built it, I decide to not do anything with the sculptor table for now. The tailor bench, though, does get in order, to make tribal out of anything handy that's not too high quality. We've got a crop almost coming in and are low on food, so I check the wildlife tab to see what we can hunt. Alpacas. I hope ours won't mind too much. I only hunt 2 for now. Forix is no longer malnourished. Now she just has half a dozen cracks, stabs, cuts, and gunshot wounds to deal with. Albert and Hermione turn in while the quick-sleeping Kaylee feeds our sick alpacas, and then goes to hunt their brethren. As we've got twice as many mouths to feed as we did when we set up the grow zones, I decide to expand them throughout that rich soil area, including upping heelroot growing from 16 to 25 plants. Kaylee hasn't even gone to bed yet when Hermione gets up. Albert rolls out of bed eventually himself and goes to feed Forix. Then we get attacked by a mad alpaca. I draft Albert so he doesn't wander out into danger. And then I draft Kaylee so she does get into danger. Albert I decide to use for kiting, as that's worked so well for me in the past. I draft Hermione too because you can't have too many shooters, especially when you're using garbage bows and you've got poor shooting skills. Kaylee runs, and I'm happy to see she's faster than the alpaca. Kiting may just work here. Hermione lands a shot and the alpaca turns on her. Albert tries to distract, but the alpaca will have none of it. Whew, that was a close one, but Hermione's not out of the rock pile yet. Finally, I get the alpaca to target Albert. Now to keep it on him while the girls do their thing. Ooh, another close one. Albert almost got bit and shot. And after another near miss with Hermione's bow on Albert, the alpaca goes down. And right as we're almost out of rice for cooking, Albert starts reaping the field. The rest of the day passes in relative peace. Forix even fully heals. Hermione makes our first tribal wear, so I strip that parka off Forix so she can wear her prison outfit. And as Hermione and Albert turn in for the night and Kaylee keeps working, I check on research. This totally new looking screen here is the Research Tree mod, and while I'm happy for its usefulness, it's very confusing when you're used to the simplified, if jumbled, simple boxes from the stock game. However, it allows queuing research in any order, including automatically queuing prerequisite items if you want to research something further along the tree, which is very, very handy. I assume, when I get used to it. There we go. Smithing, then recursive bow, then great bow, and finally, long blades. Yay for queuing. Speaking of mods, I've had a mod installed for a while that I've just not bothered using, and today I finally got around to it. That mod is called Cleaning Area. I decided to use the snow clearing area as my cleaning area so I control what is and is not clean separate from where we fight fires and repair objects in the home area. Back to the game though. As nobody's hurt right now, I set medicine back to herbal for the colony. And by the way, if you're curious about why Albert doesn't have his new lungs in yet, he's the only one with a high enough doctor skill to risk a surgery, and you can't really put lungs in yourself. Forex is no better with a medical skill of 1, so until we get someone else with doctor skills, Albert's got to live with asthma. After Forex, I'll probably be pretty picky about who we recruit. Albert and Hermione go to sleep and Kaylee wakes up. She's not a night owl, but her odd sleep habits are making her seem like one. She does some quick cleaning and hits the research bench. Then she does a little more cleaning and takes a nap before finishing. I think she's adjusting her clock to colony time. Hermione and Albert get up and start their day as always with cooking and prisoner feeding. Kaylee gets up too and we've got ourselves a functioning colony. A functional colony that can now craft metal weapons and simple helmets. As I place the smithy table that we don't have components for, we get a refugee quest. Could this be our new doctor? Troy is a 53-year-old low-wage worker. Doesn't sound like our kind of thing. Sorry, Troy. Albert's idle and we don't have a smithy table. What's up, Albert? Oh, no components. Well then, get to mining, buddy. Sadly, the only thing I actually want the table for now, is simple helmets. I don't want them to be tattered, but I will take any quality, for now. A caravan request. That I like. The only question is, can we make 25 cowboy hats and transport them safely before the request expires? Also, I think it's fitting that a town named Chessbrad wants to give us a chessboard. I do a quick calculation and, assuming I can make all 25 without fail, we have almost but not quite enough leather and alpaca fur. Cowboy hats need 25 ingredients, so we need 625 total, but only have about 600. So I set up the bill for Hermione to make 25 hats. Her crafting skill means she's the most likely to not make poor or awful hats. We can hunt for more leather if need be, but the alpacas are on the verge of shearing. I set Hermione's crafting to 1, so she'll get right on that after cooking. And she does get right on cutting blocks. Because tailoring is not crafting. There we go, the first of 25 cowboy hats coming up. I set up 2 zones, a 4x4 and a 5x2, to hold the hats so they're near her crafting station and I can see what we are up to. Her first hat, of course, is poor quality. 25 blue fur down the drain. And the second one is awful. Maybe she just doesn't like blue fur. She puts on the poor one and goes to make her third hat. Yay, good quality. Only 50 ingredients wasted, so far. Kaylee tries to wear one of the hats we want to trade, so I force her to wear the awful one. Then Albert tries the same thing a bit later, but we only have a poor toque to force him to wear. Forcing to wear a hat saves me having to forbid each hat as Hermione makes them. Our storage room is getting a bit cramped, so I deconstruct the traps and expand it northward. I don't move the traps because I've found that upon placing a trap there is a tiny chance that your colonist will accidentally trigger it, which could be catastrophic in this small, unarmored colony. And there we are. The doors could be better laid out, but hey, a room's a room. Ooh, manhunters. Manhunting camel. Okay. I put Albert on kite duty while Hermione and Kaylee get behind a trap with their bows. I run Albert behind the girls so the camel will come for them, through 2 traps. But that's not needed as 2 arrows take him down. I make Albert wear our third low-quality cowboy hat to remove that tattered apparel mood hit from the toque, and its camel hide to commemorate their recent kill. I halt sowing on the rice field in preparation for making it a cornfield. Overnight, we're getting continuous power losses that are only going to get worse as it gets hotter. The morning, though, passes uneventfully with cooking, harvesting, and hat making. The colony is actually functioning fairly well. But then the first problem with the temperature starts. It's over 100 degrees outside and the cooler just can't keep up. We lose some meat as a consequence. So I moved the stove and double up on the walls as a hopeful stopgap measure before we add a second cooler. And I decide it's just time to suck it up and build another windmill. I overlap their restricted zones to best utilize my space. Right as we hook up the power line, a dry thunderstorm arrives. Yay for wind. But then we get a solar flare. Oh well, we'll see the benefit of extra power eventually. We're really collecting the poor quality hats here. Hermione's made 5 compared to 11 tradable ones. Oh wait, that's 4 to 12. Hermione was never forced to wear her hat, so she traded up. I force her to now. The solar flare ends and a rainy thunderstorm starts, but for some reason there is almost no wind to go with the thunderstorm. Hermione continues to make hats though, even without power. The wind does eventually pick up in time for everybody to go to bed. I realized that I never actually checked where Chessbrad was. It's kind of nearby, but of all the settlements, it's the hardest one to get to. Of course. It's over 3 days away. If need be, we can stop at the other town on the way there or back, or both. Also, we can buy supplies at Chessbrad itself. Cayley works on Forex, but she's still got some resistance left. But we've almost got her. I forgot all about that field, so I queue up a big crop of corn. Hopefully, it'll be corn from here on out. And we get the recurve bow. The new windmill breaks down, and we've got no components. No problem, Albert's been aching to mine something anyway. And while he hauls those components back to the stockpile, I queue up a bill to keep one recurve bow in stock at all times. Soon both Hermione and Cayley will have one, unless we get great bows first. If you're keeping track, you know we now have 18 of our 25 cowboy hats, and can only make 4 with alpaca wool. Wow, Albert hates his ex. Partially because she keeps insulting him, and partially because she's a woman. He still likes Hermione, and she still likes him, even though he keeps hitting on her. And Forex is disfigured, so he's gonna hate her forever. But he still puts time into recruiting her. 1 or 2 more chats and her resistance should be gone. Albert's bored and his crafting skills too low to make anything useful, and we're about to caravan with almost no money, so I have him dig up some silver. Cayley comes to help, but I'd much rather have her stay at the research table than help mine, so I change her priorities a bit. It's far too late in the recruitment process to worry about Forex's mood, but I give her a potted plant and a nice sandstone tile floor anyway. Then I decide that the entire living space, other than the workshop, could use the same treatment. And while I'm doing that, Cayley breaks Forex's resistance and celebrates by eating a fine meal right in front of her. Hermione starts working on that floor, but she's not done making hats, so I adjust her priorities. And we get a new recruit! And to celebrate, Hermione throws a welcome to the colony party. Forex, of course, immediately puts on one of the good cowboy hats. And Hermione makes a replacement before joining her own party. Looking over priorities, it looks like Forex is going to be kind of a low-skill laborer, kind of like Albert, but with the ability to hunt. After the party, I queue up batteries after long blades. I should really do water wheels, but to be totally honest with you, I forgot I wanted them. Hermione's back to working on the floor. We don't have the raw materials to make those last 2 hats. Here's when I noticed that Hermione stole a good hat, so now we only need materials for 1 hat. Oh, and she's sleeping on the floor. I should probably make her a bedroom at some point. I decide to start on a second row of rooms. But everybody's busy putting floors down instead, so I forbid them. Just in time for everybody to go to bed. We finish the room, so I give Forex a bed and a torch, and figure she probably doesn't want people playing horseshoes at her front door. We are still 1 hat shy and have a bunch of different leathers, so I queue up a standing order to keep 25 on hand at all times. They'll make them only if they can't make anything else higher up on the list. But Hermione makes the last hat out of regular leather, and we're good to go. She moves on to the forge, making a helmet and a bow, while I decide to fight the summer heat with a second cooler for the freezer. But as we can't power the one we have, I unforbid the floors, so they'll do those before deconstructing that wall. And as they get those floors almost done, I decide it's time to head out. Albert and Hermione take an alpaca with them, all the meals they can eat, half the silver, the recurve bow, and the helmet, which is of excellent quality by the way, and some medicine for the journey. They can move 40 tiles a day, which is great, but only so high because they're starting on the road. When they get to the mountains, they'll slow down significantly. Still, 2.44 days isn't all that bad, and the food will last that long even without foraging. Before they go, I make Hermione drop her short bow so Forks can arm it. And the trio sets off, and I use the convenient caravan screen to actually arm her bow and his helmet. And with the 2 new recruits holding the fort while the 2 veterans go on their second road trip of the series, I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I definitely enjoyed playing it. I'm HMV and I will, as always, talk at you later.